Welcome, I'm Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. Welcome tonight. I'm the astrologer in the Pittsburgh area. This is, I think, episode 63, 64, 64. And we can be found replayed on YouTube on my channel under Rick DiClemente, or search for Astrology Unplugged. In case you're having trouble and you want to tune in, join us live, all you got to do is go to my website or go to starself.com/unplugged. And that will get you there if you want to join us any Thursday night for free, 8 o'clock to 9:30 Eastern Time, almost every Thursday. So anyhow, I was trying to figure out what tonight would be about, and I got the answer: basics. So a lot of times I think a lot of people like to listen to me, and a lot of times they're entertained by me, and a lot of times they're interested in what I do because I've done it so long. But a lot of times people want to learn to get better, and they want to know how to get better. And people, you always need to go back to your basics. Basics, you will never get enough basic knowledge. I mean, I'm 40 years now into it, and I'm still studying what is a Gemini, what is a Cancer, what is a Mars, etc. And you will always be doing it, but if you're going around and you don't have a basic understanding of what Venus opposite Saturn means, if you don't have a basic understanding of what Uranus square to your moon means, you need a basic understanding. And you can't get a basic understanding till you put your face in that toolbox and you start pulling out a hammer and saying, oh, this is a hammer. Ow. This is a screwdriver. That's how it works. Now, in my book, which is called Exquisite Zodiac, it's available for sale on my website, starself.com, by book or by Kindle. Also, if you can't buy it and you want a free version of the PDF, you can download it for free there. So I don't have any plans tonight. We're going to take questions if you need them, but you got to get your basics understood. And heaven forbid, read some astrology books. So anyhow, the science is changing rapidly. Astrologers are getting better. They're coming from far afield. It's a very difficult science. It's very subtle. You need your intuition. So I thought I'd start out a little bit with the signs. Now, what that book, The Exquisite Zodiac, it's got the basics in the very front, and it's a study very carefully of how each sign is, why it is the way it is at a very deep level, and how it changes into the next sign, and shows how the whole zodiac is tied together. It's not a book like Linda Goodman's Sun Sign, where you pick it up to read about Taurus, you read about Gemini. This shows you how they morph. This so morphs from one sign to the next, how and why. So it's a very good book for understanding the signs. I never did go into the planets much. And it does, since you wrote evolutionary process on the screen, it does not mean that when you're in Aries, you're going to be a Taurus next lifetime. That's not how it works. Nobody knows how it works. But when you want to understand the zodiac, it's set up so the early signs are very childlike, and the later signs in the zodiac are very non-self-oriented, very universal-oriented. And we are a mixture of all these things. So anyhow, I've got a graphic that I will be sharing with you that I used for my teaching, and it is more or less used a lot in the book. Here you see Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. I don't like to use the words because I like to force you to learn the symbols. In astrology, you really need to know the symbols because they're used very heavily. Okay, I'm going to give it my best shot here. Whether you like it or not, Astrology is a map and a calendar of when you left God and when you're going back. Not if, but when. Now, you can translate that a million ways, but that's what it is. And in the beginning, I'm not going to get heavy now. In the beginning, there was this oneness. The Bible calls it the void. And he spoke, and there was light, and there was upon the deep, there was creation, and the fall of the angel. What that means is, in the beginning, with the sense of oneness, and you can talk about the Big Bang, in the beginning, with a state of oneness, your mind can't even conceive of onenesses because you have to be in an opposite posture to understand what it is, and you all automatically have duality. But in the beginning, God wanted to experience himself or herself as separate. So he dreamt up this thing called an Aries. I'm separate. Look at me. Wow. Now God separated himself, herself, and if I use himself, don't get offended. Don't send me any notes because I don't mean anything by it. Just a word. But what the soul does is it morphs from Aries to Taurus, Taurus to Gemini, Gemini to Cancer, and it goes through 11 stages of trying to improve the position of the self. Well, I'm not very strong. I'll get stronger. I need some sex. I need a relationship. I need some money. I need a home. These are the signs of the zodiac. And the first 11 stages through Aquarius are all about getting the self stronger. Until the Aquarius is the symbol of the perfected self. Don't need anybody. Friendly, smart, friendly, adaptable. Don't rely on anybody, very independent. But like I had one today, I was reading for an Aquarian. He was going through this change himself. He has to go through the final stage, which is the Aquarius to Pisces. That's the ultimate stage, because at the Aquarius stage, the self is complete, but the self is still separate. It's only in the stage of Pisces where the self gives up being a self and returning back to the oneness. So that's what the zodiac is, in my opinion. So when you look at an Aries person, and I'm going to keep it very basic, and you probably have a lot of ideas yourself, and I speak very highly of this book because we concentrated very heavily on going to the essence of each sign. That's why you can read, and it's always almost right, because we stayed at the core center of the archetype. The essence of Aries is they're amazed by themselves. They're amazed about themselves. I exist. And if you're not an Aries, believe me, it took me months to write that because I had to go through months trying to figure out how simple it was. Look what I did. I'm separate. That's what leads to. All these positive qualities are what leads to the shadow side when they're not used right or abused. That's what leads to the selfishness. It's all about you, isn't it? Yeah, it's all about me. I've told this story a million times. My son came to me when he was very little. I gave him a hammer and a nail and a board, and he knocked the nail down into the board, and he showed me and sticking out of the board. And I went, look what I did. That's Aries. Simple and amazed at what he did. It's that simple. The other thing about Aries is they cannot stand and they will not put up with obstacles. I'm going from here to there. I don't intend to hurt you, but get out of my way. I got places to go. Now it all goes back to that. The basics. It's an impulsive sign. I can give you 700 more adjectives about it, but it all goes down to that. So what happens when the soul evolves is you get this fiery Aries running around that doesn't know what a yellow light or red light looks like. And finally, at the soul level, the soul needs to earthify. It needs to get grounded. It needs to have some base from which to launch anew. Can't just keep burning up all the time. So it shifts into Taurus. And not only does it shift into the next sign, but each sign is a dramatic change from the sign before it. That's why in sun signs, one sun sign doesn't usually get along with the sign before it or next to it. Hello, Kathleen. It's good to see you logged in. Usually signs that are juxtaposed don't get along well because they have very natural disinclinations. So the Taurus is about getting anchored. Get anchored. Will you sit still? Anchored. They're earthy. They're good in warehouses. They're good organizing. They're great gardeners. That's where the impulse comes from. They're earth. Earth. The first sign was fire. That's the element we're talking about. Fire, now earth. Earth comes along and it can get really boring after a while. Yeah, you're grounded, but let's do something. It's not interesting. Boing! Here comes the Gemini. First air sign, air. Air is mentality and communication, talking. I got to explore. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. We got a president in the White House. In one breath, he actually talked about nuclear war in one breath, and the next breath he's talking about painting the closet or something. I mean, that is typical archetypal Gemini. Everything is equal to everything else. Everything's just a thing. Everything is a mental thing. We're all sitting back stunned at this guy. How can he be this way? He's in a sandbox. He's playing in the sand. Yes, ma'am.
When everybody's done with the show, they have to watch the news. There are all kinds of stories breaking about Trump. He's in a lot of more trouble tonight.
Okay. Liza just said, breaking, watch the news tonight, all kind of things going on with the Trump presidency. Anyhow, Gemini's much deeper than, of course, but at the soul level, they're very playful. They're very playful, and they want to play with stuff because, ooh, isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? That's why he doesn't want to read. That's why he wants 9 bullet items on one sheet of paper. You talk with Gemini, they don't want to go deep. They want to go see this. They want to go see that. It's a flitty butterfly kind of sign. All these signs have a job to do. They're all very positive unless they're abused, used wrongly. Well, after a while, now what's next? Poof! We got to get some meaning to all this. Cancer comes about. The emotions come about. We just had all of this. This is all in the book. We just had the fire of Aries. That's what the second letter is. Fire, earth, air. Then we shift into Cancer, the 4th sign, water sign. This is a very brave sign, a very tough sign, even though they're known as being kind of dependent and hypersensitive. But they're the first ones that have the courage to open their heart. Emotion. Emotion. Take care of the child. Take care of the family. Cancer. It's all about the safety in the family, the safety being buffered within the family or the surrounding. You ever walk into a couple or you walk into a house and you got the nonverbal reaction from everybody, which is get out of here? Not personal, just get out because you're busting our bubble. We got a safe little bubble in here. It's very nonverbal. We know how we're doing it. We're all very codependent, and get out. That's the dangerous side of Cancer. The positive side, very loving, very nurturing. Bring up the babies, a mother instinct. Each sign is so special. And we go back to fire and we pop into Leo. What is Leo about? Well, Leo's about bragging and Leo's about center stage. No, it's not. No, it's not. Leo's about getting past that hypersensitive, hyper vulnerable Cancer stage. United States Cancer, by the way. So what does Leo, this will make you understand Don't buy these buzzwords in these other books. Leo is blessed with self-confidence, at least seemingly. Leo is blessed, Leo is blessed with a feeling of, it ain't me, I'm not wrong, you're wrong. That's a hell of a gift. De Niro, right? I don't care if I'm repeating myself, these things are poignant. You talking about me? You're talking about me? Robert De Niro, taxi driver. You talk to me this way? Pride. You're not going to mess with me. I'm tough now. Domain, lion, roar. Very simple. I'm getting out of that Cancer stage of vulnerability. Well, right underneath the skin of a Leo is a Cancer, but they're not going to show it to you. They're very, very thin-skinned, and they're very hypersensitive, but they got the balls and the courage to come up and roar. That's what happens in Leo. So in Leo, what do they need? They need the limelight to gain courage. They need the applause to get, they're addicted to applause. And they have to get to a point where they get past that. And if they don't, they become pathetic. All 12 signs can be pathetic if they don't get past the initial trap. And the trap of Leos, they believe their own BS. The emperor has clothes. The emperor has no clothes. But what's really happening in Leo is they're getting past that vulnerable stage and they're gaining courage. Then Virgo comes along, and Virgo can't stand blabbermouth, and it can't stand people with lampshades on their head, and it can't stand arrogance, and it can't stand bravado. And did you notice, and this is all in the book, and did you notice at the bottom of the zodiac, this is all explained, the bottom of the zodiac is all about me, my stuff. The top of the zodiac has me plus you. So Virgo is the last sign before we cross this critical line and become we. So Virgo is in the unenviable place of trying to perfect all these guys that are all having their own issues and getting ready to hop in to meet other people. And that's why at the Virgo stage, Virgo doesn't want to hear any more excuses. That's why. It doesn't want to hear the Aries. What about me? And the Taurus, well, I need some more money. I'm not being paid enough around here. And the Gemini, I'm so bored. Oh. And the Cancer, well, you hurt my feelings. And the Leo, well, I'm not getting enough attention around here. And the Virgo is like, shut up. Shut up. Take ownership. And that's why Virgo is about taking ownership, getting yourself together, no complaining, being nice and neat, being professional, taking responsibility for what you did. They're self-made and they really honor that. It's a hell of a stage. Each stage is a hell of a stage. You have to understand these feelings when you're going from sign to sign. That's why Virgos have trouble with emotion. That's why they have trouble, they're perfect daddies. They put food on the table, but they're not always the best with TLC because they don't give themselves TLC. It's a hell of a thing when you get older and you find out that everything everybody's doing is not personal. Everything everybody's doing is reacting to junk in their own head. They're all talking to themselves. We're taking it all personally. So Virgo has a hell of a job, and the book outlines this clearly, and the Virgo morphs into the Libra. Now we're nice and social. We're meeting people for the first time. This is why Libras are so social. They have to be socially okayed or cut their hands off. What do people think of me? Keeping up with the Joneses, the style, the look, what's happening. That's why you very seldom find Libras here, Barbara, in this kind of class. You're here because you got the strong Neptune. You wouldn't be. Libras always look very attractive, very beautiful smile. 99% of them marry somebody good looking. not 90, 99%. It's really important who they're with. They need to be surrounded by beauty. But the impulse is because they're meeting others. And what do they do? And that's where the zodiac is misunderstood with the scales. The scales are not about harmony and balance, even though it's part of it. The scales are about comparing. That's what you do with a scale. That's what Libras do. They compare. You're here, I'm here, your house, big house, my little house. Your job's better, my job's worse. They're really good assessors. They're good judges. They're good mediators. That's what the Libra's doing. They're comparing. How else do you walk in society and know who you are unless you compare you to others? This is why Libras are flipped out about how we look. How do we look? Does that make us look bad? Does that make them that bad? And it's a thin line. They go overboard, and then they get into keeping up with the Joneses, and they get lost in social status. But when you understand the essence of each sign, you won't get lost because you understand what it's trying to achieve. And that's why it's so important to read all 12 chapters. It really is. And I got Karen down there going, and that's a good thing. All right. The Capricorns love being in control, and I'm the one with the volume knob. So that's kind of good. Okay, so the Libra, you notice, is the first sign of the quadrant of the zodiac that's called the quadrant of relationships. So now we have this self who's put together. The self has the fire of Aries and the stuff of Taurus and the mind of Gemini and the feelings. We start to put the soul together, develop it into this quadrant. The feelings and the confidence and the fire and the integration of Virgo. Now we cross into the quadrant of relationships. And in Libra, we see how it's about partnership, partnering. You almost never see these people in a job by themselves. They almost always have to have a partner. And it's very, very common that when they get divorced or when they break up a relationship, they take one step to the left or right, and there's the next person. They've already got the next person already planned. It's that critical that they have a relationship. And sometimes you have to break that up because it's not good for the soul. So in the second stage, Libra has started the relationships, but now in the second stage of Scorpio, it's a water sign again. Now you got to get to the feeling. So Libra is good about the identity. My identity is exercised by being with you. My identity is exercised by being with you. But in Scorpio, it's okay. We're two separate souls. Let's get it on. And it is the urge to merge. It's the reason 90% of the clients go to an astrologer. They want to get intimacy. And all kind of trouble happens there. All kind of trouble happens in the Scorpio stage because that is daytime TV soap opera stuff. The sex and the lust and the jealousy and all that. But what it's really about is I want to merge with you. That's why Scorpios have a scanner. Ooh, they got a scanner that's scanning for things of light and beauty, and they dive down on it. That's why so many Scorpio men marry Gemini girls. I often talk about the Joni Mitchell album called Hey Gira in the late 70s. And she's a Scorpio of all Scorpios, you know, and she's a black and white photo on the album cover. And she's ice skating in a black crow costume. And the lyrics are, I'm like a black crow and I'm flying in a velvet sky and I'm diving down on every shining thing. Ultimately, that's the beauty of you being attracted to the light in somebody else. But it's also where they get the scary part, where they usurp and they vampiristic the other one. I like that word. They vampiristic them. See, when it's your own show, you can make up words. It's kind of fun. Nobody gives you flack. Anyhow, that's the temptation. The beauty of it is to fuse. And the ugliness is to usurp and suck the power out of. So when Scorpios are very simple, very simple. I thought this chapter would take me months to write. I had done a couple of days. Scorpio is two things. When you're with the Scorpio, do you feel stronger? Because they're so damn strong, courageous? Or do you feel usurped? Are they sucking on you psychically? So what happens is the Libra has started the relationship quadrant, which has gotten deeper in Scorpio, and the final sign in the relationship quadrant are the Sagittarians. And they're done with personal relationships. You can't blame them. They just came out of Libra and Scorpio. Whoo! And they're sitting between Scorpio and Capricorn, which lies entitled the chapter on Sages, between a rock and hot place, which is what the Sages are. No wonder they want to have fun. They've been through all this woo stuff in the kitchen. And Sag becomes much, much bigger, 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 bigger. Big relationships, country to country, family to family, exchange students, going to Harvard, going to Yale, studying, growth, getting bigger, bigger, bigger. But why is it really happening? That's part of it, but the why is also this. The Sag, being the final part of the relationship quadrant, is getting ready for the top of the zodiac, where Capricorn lies. In any zodiac that draws Capricorn down here or over here, this is the way the zodiac is drawn. The others are incorrect. Aries is always here. Always. And Capricorn is always there. Why? Because Capricorn is symbolic of meeting your needs socially. I'm now standing on top of the world. The last quadrant is the quadrant of the world and beyond. Now, you can have a lot of these traits and be an Aries or a Taurus. You can have all kind of mixtures because of your other planets, your Venus and your Mars and all that. But when the book, we're defining what that stage is. So the Capricorn stage is like the bank. You go to the bank, the guy's got a gold plaque on his desk. He's sitting there and he's the head of the bank. And it's far from complete. There's definitely more to come. But it's another earth sign. But it's beyond relationships now. It's now concerned with its place amongst the rest of society. But what happens with Capricorn is Capricorn conforms too much. And almost every Capricorn you meet does this. They play it too safe. The world stage, yes. And they have a great reaction against Sagittarius, which is so carefree, and Capricorn is so duty-bound and responsible that they overly conform and they buy this lie that if you play it safe and color within the box, you'll be fine, and you're not. And what ends up happening is this. The soul has gone through so many stages, and the soul's getting really complete, but the Capricorn turns into the Aquarius, and the Aquarius looks back at the Capricorn with disdain because, hold on, I got a call, I gotta let them have a message, okay. So the Aquarius is absorbed with the idea of being an individual, recovering the individuality that was lost. That's why the age of Aquarius is all about us being ourselves and being free and all this. Aquarians are wonderfully independent. They're really independent. They're the epitome of the 11th sign. It's all about us learning together, us accomplishing together. So you have now gone to the 11 stages, and the singularity of the self, which was created in Aries, is now complete. The Aries has done the following. George Harrison is a Pisces, was a Pisces. Okay. Where am I getting this from, viewers? I'm getting this. We sent chat messages back and forth that you can't see on YouTube. That's where it's coming from. So here's the state of godliness when you're perfect and complete. And you walk into Aries and you become an individual. But that's not enough. So you got to gain your senses and gain depth and get earth. And then you gain your mind and you start to communicate. And then you start to have feelings and share them amongst your family. So you're getting deeper and deeper into the illusion. You're getting farther from the fact that you're oneness. And then the Leo comes along and gets a lot worse because Leo's all hung up about how capable it is. Look at me. You see, the soul's getting farther. We're getting farther from the oneness. And Virgo does a real good job of helping you to get back by bringing back in humility, hard work, sense of service. The Libra says, hey, there's people out there, let's go meet them. Simon and Garfunkel, Lennon and McCartney. Then you get into the Scorpio. Now you get the marriage of two people. They're real bonding, and they think that's the end of the world, but you're only 2/3 to the zodiac. And along comes Sagittarius, and you look out bigger, and you see a bigger picture, broader world. Then you step up to the plate, you take your position in the world, you overdo it, you lose your individuality, and it comes back together. And the Aquarius is really the end-all, be-all of the self. And I was talking to my reading today. I was reading for a person who was at this stage. 68 years old, can't go any further as an individual. You could think all you want. Put the big mental picture together. That's what Aquarius is. The big mental picture. What's it going to do for you? Nothing. And then what the horror of the whole thing and the beauty of it is you got to start letting go. Let it go. And that's Pisces. And the whole zodiac evolves beautifully to the end where it becomes mutable water, which means giving love. That's what the Pisces is built out of. They want to have nothing for themselves, and they want to give love. That's why we call the zodiac exquisite in so many ways. So supposedly it's a tough sign to be, maybe the hardest. In the Pisces stage, there's a sense of being a non-self, and it gets so confused and they don't understand it, and most of them fail, and they escape to drugs and alcohol or lying and cheating. Most of them do it and they don't want to because they're built to not confront. They can't stand confronting. They can't stand competition because that's what the other 11 signs did. But they confuse it. They become non-realistic and they become escape artists when the true escape that's really driving them is to escape the sense of separateness and they get back to the sense of oneness. So then it just goes round and round and round. In some lifetimes you need more Cancer, in some lifetimes you need more Virgo, etc., etc. But that is the basics of the signs. And you have to have a sense of this. And if you pay attention to the story in the book, which is all woven, just like I did tonight, you'll understand where your place is. Once again, it never hurts. The Aries is the spark. I'm first, the pioneer. Look at me. Then it gets strengthened, gets substance. Then it gets expanded. Look over here, I could talk. Then it gets to families, picks up emotion. That's a big stage. Then the soul gathers confidence. Doesn't feel so threatened. Then the Virgo puts it together, sharpens it, shines it up, cleans it, sets of service. Most of them end up being nurses. Meet people, get deeper into people, spread it out, meet people everywhere. And in the book, the symbol of Sag I used, the representative of Sag was Walt Disney. The perfect scenario of Sagittarius. What he did with his great big ideas, explosive fire. Let's bring everybody to the party. You can see the soul, even in the early stages, the soul is yearning to get back her, but it doesn't know. And soul is really the wrong word, but I had to use something. The soul stands on top of the world like Muhammad Ali, the Capricorn. I am the greatest, I'm at the top. Then the Aquarian, it's all about us, baby. Look what we're doing together. Isn't it great what we're doing together? And then the shedding, the letting go. So why? The book was originally titled Pisces, the Ultimate Sign, which I really believe, but I didn't think people would understand it and they would get into competition saying one sign's better than another, which I don't mean. I mean it by the fact that Pisces is by far the most complex sign because it has all 12 signs inside of it. They're very hard to be. The reason it's hard to be is because their impetus is to be a non-self, but you can't go anywhere while you're a non-self. So you got to be a self and a non-self at the same time. That's what's confusing. That's what's got us in a bind. That's what so many readings are about. And so many readings are about the fact, I'll be talking Sunday at the Spiritualist Church. If you'd like to join us, that's 11 o'clock. On Facebook, you can find the address. But what happens is the Pisces selflessness is a far cry different than martyrdom. That's where they go wrong. They turn it into martyrdom. I'm no good. I'm not worth nothing. I can't do anything right, in the low confidence. That's not what's meant by this. What is meant is keeping the self humble, keeping the self in scale, in proportion to the bigger picture. Now, we got to shift to the planets because in an astrology chart, you got 10 or 11 planets that are in one of the 12 signs. Every planet is in a sign, which gives it its color. It's also in a house, and the houses are based upon the birth time, and that tells us where the person exhibits these energies, what part of their life, what area of their life. Planet in a sign in a house, then you have the aspects. One planet's opposite one, one's at a right angle to one, two of them are together, and that shapes how they act. So, that's your basic four things in a chart. Planet is in a sign, it's in a house, and it has aspects to it. Then there are a million other things that make it very complex. But as far as the planets go, the inner planets are very personal. The middle planets are social. The outer planets are universal. The 5 personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. And remember, most of astrology's days were spent when the outermost planet was Saturn. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. For ages and ages, that's what it was. Until the 1700s, we discovered Uranus. The 1800s, we discovered Neptune. The 1900s, we discovered Pluto. Now we discover Eris and 80 others, which is why Pluto got demoted. So let's keep it simple. Remember, it's basics. Who's the sun? The sun sign is what you've been reading about all these years. The sun is the part of you that shines, but it shines in the way you've read about, the way a Virgo does, the way a Leo does, the way a Capricorn does. But the sun sign merely means that the sun was traveling through that sign that month when you were born. Now, this is one of the big problems, is people over-identify with their sun sign. Well, I'm a Sagittarius. Don't say that about Sagittarius. Well, you might be this much Sag. You might be that much Sag. You don't even know. And the rest of the chart is so critical. The moon sign is your second most planet. It's really important. It's very hard to talk about because it's all this fuzzy, nebulous, emotional stuff. It's your emotions. Listen to what the moon can represent. Your mother, your grandma, your feelings, your property, your instincts, the family, the circuit to tradition, the property, the public. It means so many things, but basically it's your instincts, and it's very dependent, and it's very moody, it's very irrational, but it's a big part of you. You got to have an Aries who's very fiery, put the moon in Pisces, and that Aries is not so fiery. You get another Aries, got a moon in Leo. You got double fire. They're very fiery. Just 2 planets, you can see how complex it gets. Mercury. Since Mercury is closer to the sun than the Earth is, Mercury is always in the same sign as your sun sign, or next door. Mercury can only be in 3 places per person, per sun sign. Mercury's your mind. It's the Gemini planet. Planets rule signs. Certain planets are the ruler of certain signs. Mercury is the way your mind works as a computer, the way it thinks, and how you communicate. If mine is in Capricorn, I have a very bottom line, kind of dull, straightforward way. If mine is in Aquarius, I'm just listening to all kinds of ideas. If mine is in Leo, I'm very dramatic and I talk real big. If mine is in Aries, you don't want to argue with me. So you go to the next personal planet, Venus. Venus is closer also, can only be 5 places, in the same as the sun sign, or 1 or 2 next door. So all Sagittarians in the world, like Waldo, they have Venus in Sag or Scorpio or Libra or Capricorn or Aquarius. It's going to be 5 places. The other planets can be anywhere, depending on their speed. Venus and Mars are very much to be talked about in the same breath. They're the sexual planets, they're the social planets, they're the yin and the yang. It's really that simple. The Venus is the in, the Mars is the out. The in-breath, the out-breath. The Venus, I'm accepting the Mars, I do to you. The Mars is the aggressive, assertive part. The yang, the Venus is the input. How I want to be treated, how I accept people into my heart, into my home. So when you look at the Venus and Mars, you know a lot about somebody. So if you're going to date somebody, you got the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, you know an awful lot with the 5 personal planets. The reason they're called personal is because they move very fast. They go through the zodiac quickly. And we all change quickly. The outer planets are generational. You know, they move through the signs very slowly. Aries is going to spend 120 years in Aries. 120 years in one sign. That's how far away Aries is. So the sun, my identity, the moon, my feelings, my Venus, my receptive side, Mars, my aggressive side, Mercury, my mind. And just by looking at that, you know pretty much whether you take your date with you to the racetrack or to go to the opera or to go shopping or whatever. You know how to deal with people. It's why some sun signs seem so different than others. It's not the sun sign. It's the combination. And as you go further out, they become less personal. The Jupiter-Saturn is next. The Jupiter-Saturn are semi-generational. They're social planets. Jupiter is 1 year per sign, so it moves very quickly, 12 years around. Jupiter is how you expand. How do you expand? Do you do it recklessly? Do you do it carefully? Do you hide from it? Do you do it in a wild way? That's your Jupiter placement. Do it with a lot of fun. Then your Saturn is the next planet. 2.5 years, 2.5 years, 2.5 years, 28 years around. This is the party that's conservative. Make sure, be cautious. So you can already see you got a sun and a moon and Mercury and Venus and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. You've got so many permutations. Some people are going to have the moon next to Saturn. Some people will have the moon next to Uranus. It all gets crazy. It all gets mixed up. That's what an astrologer does. Is he mixes these up and he's able to detect these and read them. So the Jupiter is how you expand. The Saturn is how you contract. I can't answer a detailed question like that at the moment because I'm still trying to do the overall thing. I'm sorry. So Saturn is an area in your chart where you're very serious and you're very careful. That's why you can meet some people and you don't like them automatically. You feel restricted by them. You look at the two charts and their Saturn's on your sun. Their Saturn is across from your moon. Once you do the two charts, you don't know why. People say, well, there's something about him. I don't know what it was. Well, they got chemistry on that team. They use these terms because they don't understand it. Or you look at these two people and they look like real tame and real different, and they're just dynamite together. And then you look and one guy's got Uranus here and she's got the moon here. And you wonder why. Wow. The reason astrology is so hard to do is because it's so hard to do. It's just very complex. And you got to have a real propensity for driving yourself nuts. I'll drink to that. Liza's over there drinking too. We'll stop after the next thing and open it up for questions. The outer planets move much. Waldo wants some wine. Okay. Can me some, will you? Everybody run to their TV because I hear we got big bombs going off in the White House where this. No, I'm not going to comment. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. I'm not going to go through the big ones, and I'm not going to demote Pluto. Pluto is a planet. Uranus is 7 years each. 7 years, 84 around. Usually one pretty good loop is your lifetime if you live to 84. Massively powerful planet. When you go to the outer planets, they're really, really powerful. And you don't hear about them because people don't know how to talk about them. They don't know how to digest them. And in the little daily horoscopes, you hear about your Venus transit and your moon. And you'll be in a good mood to go shopping today. Okay? Oh, this is good for your love life. Well, the outer planets are the story. And this is why things are so crazy now. Uranus is the planet that's a radical change. It's not mean. None of the planets are mean. They can be. They all have a distinct purpose. Uranus is to shock you, wake you up, startle you with something brand new and exciting. Zzz. Lightning bolt. Always sudden, always right now, always shocking. Sometimes knock you out. Sometimes you have a stroke. Sometimes you have a stroke of luck. That's what Uranus does. It can't stand things that are sedentary. It can't stand things that get old. You walk in a place and you say, God, it's getting old around here. Let's try something new. That's the voice of Uranus. And when I taught classes for so many years, I made people get up and walk into the room and personify these planets. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, get up and do it. That's how you learn the basics. Okay, you're Uranus and you walk in a room. Well, what do you want to say? I want to say it's boring in here. Let's try something new. Right. That's what Uranus says. What's Neptune say? Well, I kind of love everybody here. Everybody's kind of cool, and let's not make any scenes. Shh, let's just mellow out. We have a little bit of quiet, and put on some mellow music, and everybody's kind of lovely. I'll come by you, right? And what's Pluto say? They all got their different voices. This is why your charts are nuts. Your charts are nuts. I see people's charts. I can't believe they can keep it together. It's unbelievable, some people. Neptune is the planet that's very peaceful, very powerful, not to be belittled. It's the planet that's destroying the GOP because they're not Neptunian. They're acting like they're Neptunian, but they're not. Neptune's very simple. I'm going to dissolve all the walls. I'm going to dissolve all the walls till we're back to oneness. I'm going to dissolve these mythical walls that you think are real until we return to oneness. That's what Neptune does. It will not facilitate you if you want to get rich. It will not help you if you want to get smarter. It will not help you if you want to make gains. It will only help you when you give in to the part of you that is Neptunian, which is the part that wants to return to the oneness. It's the voice that was behind all the songs George Harrison wrote. What is love? Within you, without you. He was the Neptune voice of the Beatles. It's not an easy planet to deal with because our society is so anti-Neptunian. We want to get sex. We want to have money. We want fast cars. We want to have special guns. I mean, it's all the opposite of oneness. We're learning how that doesn't work. Pluto, finally, and I've written so much about this ad nauseum. Pluto is very heavy duty, very strong, 256 years around the circle. Generational. It brought us the Holocaust. It brought us Hitler. It brought us atomic weapons. It also brought us the ability to dig into science. It brought us cancer and maybe the cure. Pluto is very heavy duty, and it's the part of you that wants to mean more. It wants to have courage. It wants to move on. It doesn't put up with slackers. It ends things. This is why the U.S. is having a Pluto return. In 1776, Pluto was at, let me just show you. Easier to show you. In 1776, on the 4th of July, Pluto was right here, about 26 degrees of Capricorn. And all this time, Pluto's been going around all since the birth of this country, going all the way around. And in 1995, it went into Sag. We had windows, and we had loans, and we had credit cards, and we mortgaged the future. And in 2008, it went into Capricorn, and all the bills came due, and things have been serious since then. Since 2008 till 2023, it'll be going through Capricorn. That's why things are serious. That's why the structures are falling, and we can't count on institutions. Well, in about 3 years, Pluto's going to return to the 26th degree, which is where it started. That's the Pluto return. And right now it's about 7 degrees away. In the astrology terms, that's like this far. That's why things are intense. That's why the weather is changing. That's why the threat of nuclear weapons, etc. And what it means is very simple. Very simple. Ain't easy, but understanding it's simple. Learn to live together. love each other, or destroy yourself. That's Pluto's job. In nature, logs have to rot to give birth. Things have to die to be reborn. Pluto's job is to expedite the death or to destroy and rebuild. That's what they do. So when we look in your chart, that's what the forces do. We're going to exit YouTube here in a second. The sun is the basic self. The moon is your emotions. The Mercury is the mind. The Venus, come to me. The Mars, go get what I want. The Jupiter, how I expand. The Saturn, how I keep it all together, whether I'm disciplined. Of course, these planets all have they're very, very deep. They have many, many archetypal meanings. The Uranus, make it new, make it fresh, and come back to our restaurant when we've modernized. The Neptune, things just kind of decay and the old forms dissolve, giving way to a spiritual rebirth. And the Pluto, which I just told you about, is the death and rebirth. This is not a class. This is just a review of the basics. There are many, many, many really good books on it. We're going to say goodbye to our YouTubers and thank them for joining us. YouTubers, thanks for joining us Unpluggers. And we'll see you next week.